scared and be intimidated and be humble.
There's a lot of crevasse, open crevasse.
I came to Nepal on a quest to explore this captivating country, but I leave with so much more.
Hi, Alex. Good morning. Jeff in Las Vegas.
Jeff, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing great, man. What a wonderful documentary, man. I felt like I was there with you every step of the way. What a spiritual and exciting adventure.
Well, you know what, Jeff, that is what we're trying to get accomplished out of this. If you had that kind of emotion and that kind of sense of attachment, then I greatly appreciate, those kind of words, because I think then we've done somewhat of the job that we tried to set out to do.
Well, tell us about your childhood promise and how you fulfilled it.
Well, yeah, I was coming back from a lengthy soccer practice. I was a competitive soccer player. I was sitting on a couch in Omaha, Nebraska, about the farthest away from any mountains you can imagine. The concept of climbing mountains isn't even present in a place like that. And I saw something on TV about Mount Everest. And by the time I was done, I gave myself a promise right then and there that one day I would climb that mountain. Out of sight, out of mind for many years. And then one day I'm sitting on a couch in Denver, Colorado, watching daytime soaps or daytime television, nothing to do with mountaineering or Mount Everest. And for some stupid reason, that recollection dawned on me that I made a promise when I was a teenager that I would climb Mount Everest. And the next day, the very next day, I started that process. And I had no idea how to go about that process at the time, and I started with climbing a 14er out here in Colorado, which is a 14,000 foot peak, which we have 52 of out here. And I did it right in the dead of winter in January with snowboarding gear on, overweighted, sweating my butt off, but I made it to the top. And so I kept grinding, kept going through the process of learning what it takes to climb mountains and how you formally do it from a training perspective in order to honor a childhood promise to myself. Because if I couldn't do that, then how could I keep my word to, for example, to someone like you?
Well, your journey began in Kathmandu. Describe that city to a Westerner.
It is something almost indescribable or undescribable, however you want to say it, because it's really inundated with over-the-top sights and smells and sounds, and you're going back almost 50 years. You still have dirt roads, you have no traffic lights at all, zero, no lanes, none of that stuff. You still see horse and buggy, and you're right away immersed into this over-sensory load of information that you have to take in, you have to disseminate and figure out how you're going to navigate yourself through it. But I tell you what, it is also one of the most fascinating places on earth.
Yeah, I noticed the mixture of politics and spiritualism. I mean, it's such a bizarre combination.
Yeah, it is. And you think it wouldn't work. And it's so ironic because Nepal is such a spiritual place, right? It's the birthplace of Buddhism, not India. Most people think India is where Buddhism started. No, it's actually in Nepal. And yet it's a Hindu country. 80% of the country is Hindu. And then to take that a step further, it's governed by Chinese-style communism come out of Beijing. So that shouldn't even work,
Yes.
but it does. And it's so integrated in everyday life that you're just fascinated about how this daily process unfolds in front of you when you're standing there and checking out the sights and sounds of Kathmandu.
And what better place to start your childhood fulfillment, that promise, than the most dangerous airport in the world, the Lucha Airport, right?
Yeah.
I saw that landing. I'm like, you're up against homes like this far apart.
Yeah, and it's crazy because the pilot has to come around and bank really hard to get around this mountain. And then he has to dip his nose down really hard to try to hit this little runway. And then when he hits the runway, he's got to hit the brakes, slamming on it really hard because the tarmac where the actual planes are about the size of only 3 basketball courts. And so if he doesn't slow that plane down and spin it around and stop it, he's running right into the side of a hill.
I thought flying out of Orange County was dangerous, when you do that. And I love the Sherpas, the mountain guides. I understand it's a family tradition, isn't it?
It is. It actually is. The Sherpa came over to the Khumbu Valley, which is where Mount Everest is situated, about 600 to 650 years ago. And because they've been there that long, not only have they kind of evolved genetically to be more capable at altitude, even if it's only a 10% difference, that 10% makes a huge difference. And it's passed down from generation to generation to generation. So originally what they were is they were Himalayan salt traders, yak traders, and they traded between the Silk Road routes from the Tibet Plateau down to the Kathmandu Valley. But ever since May 29th, 1953, when Mount Everest was first climbed by Sir Edmund Hillary and Tenzing Norgay, that changed their lives forever, because now it put not only the Khumbu Valley, but Nepal on the map. And therefore they were able to change their economy of scale from, yak herding and salt trading to tourism, mountaineering, and outdoor activities.
Because 1953 isn't that long ago that this mountain was conquered. I mean, it's only recent times.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And if it wasn't for Mount Everest sitting at the end of the Khumbu Valley, because if you go a couple valleys over on either side, nobody knows about it. Very few people go there, and their lifestyle is completely different. So it is amazing how much impact that Everest has had on the Khumbu and the Sherpa people.
This is one of the most dangerous tasks and expeditions that a human could take. How do you mentally prepare for something like that? The Sherpas say that is the most important element, to be mentally prepared, because so many people fail. It's not the physical, but the mental. How would you even prepare for something like that?
Yeah, you can't really.
Yeah.
You try to be physically and mentally prepared as best as possible based on the capability and the background that you have and whatever you've done throughout your life. In my case, I've done high-level competitive sports, so that helped a lot, because you constantly grind through hard situations. You have to stay focused on the task at hand, and you have to be able to stick it out. So those are three things that really help on an Everest expedition. But at the end of the day, when you step into the Khumbu Icefall for the first time, which many people say is the deadliest 2.5 miles on Earth, everything changes. When you see those crevasses, that can be 50, 100 or feet longer, all the way to 1,000 feet deep, and you're walking across Home Depot style ladders tied together by fishing string in order to make it across with only 1 inch of purchase on your boots because of your crampons. It's a game changer. And a lot of people, and I saw a lot of top drawer athletes that just turned around and said, nope, that's enough. I'm done. I'm not going any further. And so you have to be so mentally tough, but you also have to be almost somewhat mentally crazy, because you have to be able to give up complete control to the mountain, because the mountain's going to dictate ultimately whether or not you're even going to have an opportunity to make it to the top. And you also have to be willing to accept that there's a lot of things you cannot control. And if it's an avalanche or serac collapse or fall into crevasse, these things can kill you. If you're not willing to accept that, then you might as well turn around right then and there.
And you better not be in a rush. You literally are going one step at a time, right?
Absolutely. Nothing goes fast. It's hard to breathe. It's hard to think. You get dumber and dumber the higher you go, or should we say drunker and drunker the higher you go. It's like a martini effect. And so it is one of those things that you can't really describe it too well until you go yourself, but you can get an understanding of the process that you have to go through.
And finally today, tell us about documenting your quest, your team. I saw some of your team members had to be choppered out because they couldn't take it. And first of all, it looks fantastic. It is beautifully shot, the sound, everything. But I just kept thinking to myself, there's somebody recording this, so it's like not just yourself, but you had to have a team up there. Yeah. That must have been, those production meetings must have been intense.
Yeah, and a lot of it is, flying by the seat of your pants, because again, it's not a controlled environment, right? From a film perspective, you can't go light this way, a 3-to-1 lighting scenario. You can't set the audio the way you want. You can't control the set, do marks, other stuff that you can do, in standardized film or television. It's basically, what can we get under these conditions at this moment in time? And so you have to be very agile. You have to be able to improvise, and your crew has to be able to read and recognize the situation and say, okay, let's see if we can get this. Let's see if we can capture this, and let's do our best to do it under these extremely difficult conditions, because sometimes the cameras don't work, the batteries freeze, the lenses fog up, all the things that you can imagine happen on Everest, to equipment happens on Everest.
It sure does. Well, congratulations on an incredible documentary, incredible journey, and I applaud you. And if you have a chance, I know this is kind of silly, I'm a huge Simpsons fan. There's an episode where Homer climbs the murder horn, and he's got 2 Sherpas that help him up there. And I kept thinking about that episode. It's so funny. I think you get a big kick out of it because it reflects what you did, and I have a sense of humor about it too.
That's awesome. I will definitely check it out, Jeff. And that sounds like a pretty fun, light way of going about it.
Absolutely. Well, congratulations. Thanks for joining me today, and best of luck with the documentary.
Yeah, thank you so much, Jeff. I appreciate your time. And again, if any of your listeners or your audience have any questions or any thoughts, they can get more information about where to see the movie at thequestnepal.com.
Excellent. Thank you so much. And we'll talk again soon.
Thanks, Jeff.